Hello everyone, my name is Kurazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. We are back in the world on this early morning at about, I think it's 4 a.m. Now last time we spent a good deal of time covering food preservation and getting ready all of these crocks for winter, and I showed you our basement down here, our cellar, that is now full of cooked food that should last about 40 days before it starts to spoil. Since we've spent the last few episodes at home, I thought it was time to go back out adventuring again. And it's just as well because there are some things that we need. But first I'll show you what I've been up to. First, I have rotated and replanted all of our crops. I moved all of the potassium crops down to these two rows. We have flax here. I moved all of the phosphorus crops down to these two rows. We have parsnips and onions. And I cycled the other nitrogen-based crops over to these two rows, and they are all growing. And I figured I have like 400 turnips. I don't think I need any more, so I am growing some grain this time around, because that will keep very well through winter. I also broke down and made a water jug, or watering can, so that I can water these central blocks, because they're not getting as much moisture as I want them to have from the irrigation we have. It was getting to the point where some of these center ones were taking significantly longer to grow than the other two rows, just because of the moisture differences. So to use the watering can, all you do is you pick it up with right-click, you right-click on some water. You can also hover over it to see how full it is, and you can water a pretty good chunk of land with just one fill. And then to water, you just right-click and walk over the blocks you want to water. As part of that kiln session where I made the watering can, I made 3 more storage vessels to make room for more things down here, and I've reorganized our food. We have vegetables here, we have fruit in here, and I was putting meat in here, but I'm out of meat right now because it's all been cooked. And in here we have our grain and a couple extra meals here. I also managed to find a bug that reminded me that this game is still in early access, where shift clicking between your inventories can sometimes cause the items you're moving to just disappear. And luckily I had made a backup about 3 minutes prior, and so I was able to just restore from that. So I'd like to stress the importance of backups whenever you get the chance to. Maybe every play session, maybe every other. All you have to do is hit enter, type in /gen, as in GEN, backup, hit enter, and as long as you're not running a big server, it'll take only a couple seconds, especially with a solid state disk. After recovering from that disaster, I found and relocated some more bushes, and then over here I relocated a whole bunch of Cooper's reeds, and I'm growing them in rows of 3. And the reason that I'm doing that is that when we eventually get access to the scythe will harvest a 2x3 area around where you click, approximately. It can get a little funky sometimes if you have patchy grass or reeds, but this way I can just kind of walk up here and mow this down with relative ease. And I have some more growing over there. And at that point is when I went on a little adventure in our backyard here, just up on this little plateau, and I found a couple patches of Terra Preta just waiting to be discovered. One was just back here. Oh, we have some more lead. Perfect. One of them was just back here over by that pine tree, and the other one was over this away, down in a little gully. No, it wasn't this one, but it was one of these around here. But while I was out here doing a little bit of exploring, I noticed in the distance some pine trees. Not that. You stay away. I noticed some pine trees in the distance, and that got me thinking. There are some resources that we have not found yet that are accessible to us in the early game, and which are kind of gating for features that are found later in the game. And one of them can only be found on pine trees. So we're going to talk today a little bit about some of the gating resources that essentially prevent you from advancing in technology until you find them. There aren't a whole ton of them, but there are a few, and it is important to know where to look and how to get them. A somewhat non-exhaustive list of these resources are things like resin, which is the pine tree one, honeycomb from bees, limestone and chalk, borax, and bauxite. Now those last few we're not going to be able to get until we get at least a copper pickaxe, which, yes, we do have one. We are pretending it doesn't exist, so enough on that. However, we can at least get the beeswax and the resin while we're still in the Stone Age, and I want to go and get some of that. There are some uses for both of those, in fact many uses for both of those in the early game, and especially in the late game they become even more important. So I want to establish a source, and maybe even a small stockpile of resin, before we get to the point where we really need it. So today we're going on a bit of an adventure, but we need to gear up first, and there are a few upgrades we can make to some of our equipment. First of all, let's check our armor. Yeah, I think that double-headed drifter broke it in one hit in the last episode. So we'll make a new set of armor, for as much good as it'll do us. And since we have been harvesting that flax, I have been putting it in one of these baskets here, in the form of flax twine. Now we are currently using these hunter's backpacks, which give us 4 storage slots per backpack. However, we now have access to linen sacks, which will give us 5 slots per bag, so we'll get an extra 4 slots. And all we need is 1 flax twine and 1 linen, which essentially means 5 twine per bag, because 1 linen is 4 twine in square shape. The last thing I did before I started recording today was I took all that bony soil, I think we had about 24 pieces, and I spent a whole night and I panned all of it. And I wanted to show you what we got out of it. We got 21 more flax fibers, which I will turn into twine in a moment, 34 bones, 2 copper spearheads, which I will end up using because they don't really give us access to anything new. They're just a tougher, higher damage spear. So we'll go ahead and turn those into spears and bring them with us. 8 copper arrowheads, which I might turn into arrows, but we don't really have enough of them yet to do much with. 2 more rusty gears, 17 more flint arrowheads, 2 more rough diamonds, 2 rough peridot. We got 2 more books, which I will read and then throw up on the screen for you to look at if you want to. 3 nuggets of native gold, and we got 1 candle. Now candles by themselves are not terrific light sources. I think they're like a light source of, or light level of 1 or 2. And it's hard to see since, it's daytime. But when you combine them with a metal plate of most any kind, and 2 pieces of clear quartz or 2 slabs of glass, then you can turn it into a lantern, which is almost the best light source in the game. The only other better light source being a better lantern. So let's go ahead and read both of these books. Cover your ears. We get Reflection and Letters, both parts 1. So I'm going to bring both of these on screen so that you can pause it and read it if you like. And there is Letters. I'm going to make some replacements for my worn out tools here, like the spears and the shovel and this knife. And then I'm going to grab some food, and we'll be on our way to go and see if any of those pine trees have any resin for us. Before we set out on this journey, I want to talk about some other goals that I have in mind. In addition to finding resin, I would like to try to find some bees. However, that means danger, because bees only spawn in forested areas. So we will need to check out some forests. I also want to take a quick trip back up to our original place, our temporary home, to pick up some of the odds and ends we left up there, and to see what we find along the way. Hello, drifters. It is now nighttime because I had to take a quick emergency stick gathering break, and it's now nighttime. I also thought I heard a wolf, and I know I heard the sound, but I could not find him for the life of me. So he was faking me out. But we're going to go ahead and rest, and we will pick back up in the morning. Always safe, sleeping with a torch. Okay, well, it is a bright new morning, so without further ado, let's be off. I spy a ruin over here. In fact, looking at the map, I spy several ruins and some forest. We need to be careful here. And what do we have here? Lots of walnut and, ooh, more seeds. Turnip seeds. Ugh. There are some seeds that you can only get from breaking these seed vessels. I won't go into what they are until we find some, but some of them are significantly better, at least on a per meal basis, than what you can normally find growing in the wild. So we'll take a gander at this tree. Pine log, pine log. No leaking pine logs. Okay. We have more chances over here. I'm not going to ransack this village yet. I think we'll leave... Ooh, nice. I think we will leave this area for later. This is a pretty big ruin. So I'm thinking we'll come back in a later episode and we will, if not tear this down, at least explore the ruins and see what we can find. So there are fewer pine trees here than I thought, but looks like we're just on the edge of the pine groves. Okay. So we'll go over that way and see what there is to see. Oh boy, we are in some thick woods now. One step and instant woods. Oh, and instant caves too. We're gonna not stick around here too long. Pine logs, I don't see any sap leaking. We'll follow this pine-filled ridge as far as we can. Oh, here we go. A leaking pine log with resin. Take a quick peek for wolves first. No. So here's what resin looks like on a pine tree. And let's talk about what this is used for. In the early game, we will use this for armor. In the later game, it is used for a lot of things involving mechanization and machines. It's used for things like transmissions and large gears, angled gears, and a whole bunch of other odds and ends. I do have more pine trees over here, but it's getting kind of into the afternoon, and I wonder if it'd be best for us to make a break to the north and make our way back toward our original home. Here we go. Some more pine trees over this way. And some really bad frame rate, too. We're getting nothing. Man. An important thing to know about resin in particular is that it is a material that you must go and find. Oh, hey, look, mushrooms. You cannot grow a pine tree and expect to find resin. It's not how it works. You can only find resin on pine trees growing in the wild, which is why it's important to mark them and come back to them later when they've regenerated. And they will regenerate their resin, I think it's about every 8 days, and I'm pretty sure it does that in all seasons. I don't think you have to wait till spring. Like some things are, like mushrooms will only grow during the warmer months of the year. But resin will leak out of pine logs all year round. Oh, and more Terra Preta over here. That's nice. Next to this scary cave. And while we're out here, I'm also keeping my ears open, specifically, for bees. Bees are really hard to spot with your eyeballs. You kind of want to listen for them. They kind of get lost among the other particle effects that go along with the wind. So it's easier to see them on a clear, calm day. And if you spy a bunch of particles floating around a tree, especially on a calmer day, that may be an indicator of bees. And they look kind of like these little particles that I just generated by breaking those bushes, but they kind of fly sort of to and from a specific log or spot among the foliage. And there we have our first wolf on this trip. He hasn't seen us yet, so we are going to go ahead and use the element of surprise. Down. I am actually interested in carving him up because we are very low on fat. And I want a lot more fat than we have. Okay, guess you were just one off. which is somewhat unusual. Okay. Ooh! You are not a one-off. Okay, I heard that growl. Maybe we'll just leave him there. How far up are we? We are actually not very far from our current home. So I might... Oh, there he is. Hey, buddy. Hey. Hey, buddy. Got him. Okay. Okay. We have no resin here either. Boy, there's just a complete dearth of resin anywhere in this area, except for that one tree. But what we might do is sort of creep our way northward at night. Oh, cool. A little shell. That's cute. We'll creep our way northward at night. Try to stay out of woods. And I'll get a torch on in my hand when we're not actually in the water, and I will just rest when it gets too dark to go on. And that pig just gave me another scare. Oof. So yeah, I'm going to gather some grass, and I will just sort of make a little platform to sleep the night, and we'll call it a day there. Well, it is morning. I spent the night on a little platform right here on a bed, and it is time for us to be off. So let us sneak our way through here. What is that? Ooh. Do you hear what I hear? Do you see what I see? Oh, this is great. This is terrific. This is a beehive. This is one of several permutations of beehives you can find out in the world. This is hanging from a branch. Now, we want to be really careful around these, not because they're going to sting us, which they won't as long as we don't touch their hive. And by touch, I mean smack their hive. But we don't want to damage this hive at all. Now, this hive is population large because there are a lot of flowers nearby, which is great. These horsetail count as flowers, so the bees are pollinating them and they're making honey. They are happy, which means that all we need is a skep. And we can drop a skep right here, and these bees will swarm to it either pretty quickly or in a couple days. So we're going to go ahead and mark these as bees. Bees. And we'll make them yellow. And we will make the bug symbol. Make with the bug. Oh boy, this is amazing. This is much better than I expected. So we need to make what's called a skep. A skep is sort of a primitive man-made beehive, and it is made of cattail reeds and clay. So I'm going to take a quick stroll around here and see if I can spy any easy-to-find deposits of blue clay. And we are back at the bees. None the worse for wear, although I did take a bit of a roundabout route to get here. And the hive is still here, so we're going to take this skep and we're going to plop it down right there. We can look here, and after a moment or two, it should recognize that there's a skep here, because it's pretty close, and we might actually move it closer. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to put these here, and we will pick up the skep and drop it there. So in a few minutes, these should recognize, among this awful FPS we're getting, that this skep is here, and it will update and say that it's going to swarm. And it'll probably say in a few days. So here I am in the middle of the night, chopping down leaves from a walnut tree. The bees have decided they are not going to take a look at that skep just yet. And in the meantime, I'm going to gather up some walnut seeds. I want to bring that back to our home. While I'm thinking about it, one of the YouTubers that I've been watching and commenting on, Nemonaemo, I'll put his name down in the description in this video, but he gave a shout out to me on his channel, and I wanted to return the favor. If you like vintage story content, go check out his channel. He has a very long-running vintage story series. I think it's over 120 episodes now, maybe more, 150 even. I have to go and check, but I'm not there right now. And he also has a lot of Twitch streams that he does on a very frequent basis, and a lot of other content besides Vintage Story on his channel, so it's a great way to find new games that you want to either play or watch. Thank you, Nemonaemo, for your shout out, and look forward to seeing you around in your videos and maybe in mine. And with that, down comes the rest of the tree. That is a boatload of wood. Okay. We still only have 43 flowers, but I did move a whole bunch of them to closer locations to the beehive, so we may just have to come back in a few days and see how they're doing. Let's head home. We'll unload our gear. I'm still thinking about running up to our old home, but that is less of an issue at this point, although I might want to check this area out for some more resin. So you know what? Let's say we're going to do it. Okay, with our inventory freshly cleared and a fresh and empty reed basket in our pack, we are off to go check out that land just south of our old home, and then we'll skip up into our old home as well just to see what's there and bring back what we can. Let's be off. Boy, there is just no resin to be found anywhere. I'm about halfway to our old base, and I have not found a single leaking pine log. And I've checked about, I don't know, 24 trees at this point. It's getting a little crazy. I did knock down one tree because I wanted to get some seeds, and I wanted to get some wood in case I needed to remake my armor, because it has taken a bit of a beating. And with that night behind us, let's check out this resin over here, and we'll see if there's any more waiting for us. Let's get this resin. There we go. And we're going to kind of just work our way through these woods here. There's spear out. And we're going to take a quick peek at the trees around us and see what we can find. We are actually getting pretty close to our original home. Oh. Rift activity is apocalyptic. I have not seen that before. But I do not like it, whatever that means. I think given this apocalyptic warning about rifts, it might be time to make a bit of a mad dash up to our old home. Just sort of looking at the trees along the way to see if we spot any along the way. And then we'll stay the night there, let this apocalypse wash over. And on the way back, we'll sort of get a look at the opposite side of these trees. Here we go, here's some. The one thing that I'm not a real fan of with these rifts is just how random they seem. Like, they sort of open up in your vicinity, of course. Otherwise they wouldn't be much of a threat. But they seem to be more of a nuisance than a threat a lot of the time. And nuisances in games I'm not... don't interest me. If it's a threat, that's interesting. But a nuisance is just something you have to wait for to clear up, and then you can go out and do your thing again. Okay, we're going to hang out in here for a bit. Anyway, I'll bring you all back when we get back to our real home. Whoop! Holes in the ground. Oh. Are you what I think you are? You are. Oh, man. Oh, this is a good find. So, well, I had an inkling, judging by this depression here, that there may have been a meteorite impact, and I was right. Now, we can't really do anything about this at the present because this requires a tier tool or iron tool or greater to break. So we're not going to be getting any meteoric iron just yet, but it is neat to know that it is here, and this is a pretty big one too. Look at all that. Wow. And that could actually be a block deeper as well in some places. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, well, let's mark where we are. Oh, we'll have to come back there once we have at least one iron pickaxe. And we'll dig that out and make some cool stuff with it. And look at that sight. Boy, that is comforting to see after Nearly getting our head bitten off by wolves a couple times and falling dangers. And we have a house up on the ridge here. And a nice, I wouldn't say warm bed, but a bed to fall into. And the door worked. Amazing. And good morning, back at home, safe and sound, inventory empty. We have one last thing to do before we call it quits today, is we need to go check on that beehive, that skep, and see if there are bees in it. There should be at this point. Now, when you collect a skep that's full of bees, it doesn't just go back into your inventory in a regular slot. You have to use one of your special slots down here that normally hold your bags. So it's a good idea to, when you go to retrieve a full skep, just leave one of your bags behind, and you can use your control key to pick a bag and then place it. And let's go get us some bees. Okay, what do we have up here? Still hear my bees. Ah, here we go. Nearby flower 72, so they finally updated. They will swarm in less than a day. Okay. We will come back when this is ready, and we'll take the skep home. So I came over to pick up this shell that I had spotted earlier, and I looked over here, thinking it might just be limestone, but no, we actually have borax bits in limestone here, which means that a few blocks below us, right now, is a deposit of borax, which is of course one of the gating materials that we talked about earlier. So I think at this point the only gating material we have left is bauxite, and we won't need that for quite a while. So I think we're going to be pretty well set in this little vintage story world. But these are particularly rare, the turquoise ones. I just think they are cute decorations. You can grind them down into lime if you want to, but that's just sort of a waste. So we're going to mark borax right here and hope that the wolf that I heard earlier doesn't show up. And here we go. Populated skep. We're going to go ahead and pick this guy up. He occupies our inventory slot there. And we are going to hightail it home with this guy. Now from here, we should, in theory, never need to go hunting for bees again unless we do something unfortunate and accidental to our bee colonies, because we can use this one skep to further populate additional empty skeps and thereby grow the bees that we have. Well, everyone, that's about all we have time for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this little excursion, a break from the around the house building and explaining of in-depth game mechanics. In a future episode soon, we will figure out what to do with this newfound skep, and maybe even build ourselves a little apiary, and farm us some bees for beeswax. Anyway, my name has been Kurazar. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.